Welcome back to the Patreon board. You know what? I already reviewed 2 TV shows in a row now, so let's change it up by starting with Matthew's movie request, which is Legend of the Guardians, Owls of Ga'Hoole. Legend of the Guardians is an adaptation to the first 3 entries of the Guardians of Ga'Hoole book series by Catherine Lasky, the latter running mostly from 2003 to 2008. Both take place in an epic fantasy setting, where there's unique terminology, complex social structures, and myths that help with world building. My only experience with this Owls series was from this movie. It was released in 2010, and while Lasky was part of it, she eventually gave way to John Orloff in doing the screenplay, while directorship was given to Zack Snyder. Yeah, not gonna get into him given the upcoming Justice League film, but I'm curious to see how he handles something intended for teenagers. So let's see how they managed to fit in 3 books worth of story in the span of a single movie. So right away, it starts off classy by showing off the visual effects of the movie during the logo credit section. Very nice looking stuff for 2010, thanks to Animal Logic Animation Studio. In any case, we fly into the family home of our main character, Soren. With him, our younger sister Eglantine, big brother Clud, snake nursemaid Mrs. P, mother Morella, and lastly, Father Noctis.
Oh, Noct. How?
No, wrong franchise. This is Noctis with a U! And he's voiced by Hugo Weaving. So Soren is the optimistic middle child who fanboys over the mythical Guardians of Ga'Hoole, a society of owls who fight against another group of evil owls called the Pure Ones. I mean, owl society in this world feels similar enough to human culture. Maybe that's why they don't eat Mrs. P and let her help around the home instead. The family will look more sophisticated that way.
Da, have you ever seen a guardian?
Blood, just because you can't see something doesn't mean it isn't real. It's like feeling something with your gizzard. Through our gizzards, the voices of the ages whisper to us and tell us what's right.
Honestly, this isn't bad so far. We get a basic understanding of the main character's daily life and how he sees the world through the stories passed down to him. We even get a glimpse of a legendary hero called the Lies of Keel, who defeated the leader of the Pure Ones in the Battle of the Ice Claws.
Stop! What? You're gonna give a day, miss.
This is my favorite part.
I know. We've heard it 1,000 times. Look, you have a soft head, Soren. I think Da has filled it with stories and dreams.
Blood, you're just upset that your parents gave you a silly name. Or it could just come from seeing your younger brother be ahead of the curve when it comes to flying. This matters later when their parents go out hunting, and Soren convinces Clud to go out branching with him again. Clud gets annoyed at his brother gushing about the Guardians again, so he shoves him out of frustration to get him to stop. They both fall down to the forest floor below and run into a pissed off Tasmanian devil.
Sorry!
At least it looks kinda intimidating. Soren and Clud then get some unwanted help from 2 owls, Jat and Jut. They drive the Tasmanian devil away, which is good. But then the rescue mission becomes a snatch and grab because, plot twist, they work for the bad guys.
You can't do this!
Keep your mouth shut, or I'll shut it for you. What do you think of that, Jack?
The old shut it for you, pal.
No, not that. My evil stare. Been working on it for weeks.
Oh, I missed it. Let's see. Oh, impressive.
I guess these 2 are meant to be the comic relief villains, but they aren't very good ones. We do get some impressive flying scenes where all the kidnappers rendezvous with one another. It's also scary to think what these guys have in store for Soren, Clud, and the younger owls. But anyway, it's here where we are introduced to another key character, Gylfi.
Are you a Tyto?
Yeah, from Tyto Forest.
Who are these owls? Do you have any idea where they're taking us?
Hey, stop talking.
So the owls make their way to Mordor, it seems. I'm not sure how they can make those torches, But anyway, the bad guys now sort out which owls can serve them as pickers or soldiers. The young owls are obviously still asking what the hell is going on, but someone else steps in to make them know their place. This is Naira, voiced by Helen Mirren, mate of the Lord High Tito, and his most trusted general.
I know right now you miss your families, but soon enough you will understand the pure ones are your new family.
Gylfi gets herself into trouble by loudly asking the bad guys to take her home. But what really catches Naira's ire is Soren stepping in to defend his new friend.
Leave her be.
Oh, a spirited little Taito. How touching. You and your patch of felt will stay together then. As pickers.
What about my brother?
Oh? Where's he?
Clud!
Would you like to join him? I didn't think so.
Guess Clud hates his brother more than anyone suspected. So our two heroes are herded to an open area to rest, but Gylfi warns Soren that the bad guys are trying to moonblink them. And given one of the isles they passed by had soulless eyes, I'm guessing this is some kind of hypnotism trick, so they need to stay awake for the rest of the night or something to that effect. They also need to learn to fly while no one's looking. And we do get a cute moment between Gylfi and Soren, so somehow they avoid getting moonblinked, and the bad guys do not notice this, even when they have a chance to look at them up close. Just because they're pretending to be moonblinked doesn't mean they are. The next day, the two owls are forced to mine small metal flecks from owl pellets, and when one such piece is found, Soren is forced to carry it to a nearby pile. It was a harrowing experience given how it seems to exude some strong magnetism power that he couldn't resist. I guess only bats can take it from here, but either way, it's part of the Lord High Tito's plan.
To lure our enemy to their rightful place, into our claws.
And then the Western Kingdoms and the tree, those will be mine.
You have my word.
Actually, looking at him now, he seems more like the Lich King. But before our heroes know what's going on, they get caught by Grimble. But to their surprise, he's actually trying to help them escape.
My feathers weren't always stained with these colours. When the pure ones invaded our kingdom, I fought back. They thought they could use that, so they took my family. They promised me if I followed orders, no harm had come to them.
He gives them a crash course on flying and instructs them to seek out the Guardians of Ga'Hoole once they're fully trained. Turns out Lies of Keel and his ilk are real after all. Meanwhile, Clud is learning to fly under Naira's tutelage. She tests him and his classmates by asking them to catch this one bird. And he doesn't disappoint.
Tell me, does your brother have similar potential as a flyer?
Who, Soren? No. He fell out of the tree when he was still a hatchling.
You know, your motivation for disliking your brother has been lame too. Jealousy is one thing, but is it that bad? And if you think he's a piece of work now, oh boy, just you wait. Well, our heroes are out of time as Naira catches on to Grimble's little secret. Soren tries to tell his brother to join him, but he refuses. In fact, he freaking embraces his new life.
Would you wound your queen, Grimble?
You're not my queen.
So Soren and Gylfi are forced to make the leap of faith, and they almost die for their troubles, but they fly just well enough to get the hell out. Grimble lets out one shout of encouragement, then he dies. Disappointing that he didn't last long, but I guess this means we're at the end of book 1, since our heroes encounter another supporting character, a burrowing owl named Digger.
Huh? Oh, an ambush. Well, I bet you didn't count on this.
Back over to Clud. He promises Naira he will bring over Eglantine to prove his loyalty. Did your parents not hug you enough when you were little? And for our heroes, they get to meet Digger's roommate, Twilight. He's a bit eccentric, but alright.
An adventure afoot, danger, intrigue, the stuff of song.
Oh, no, not the loot.
But such things have no effect on me, for I am a poet, as much as a warrior.
These goofballs are a handful, but Soren needs them since they know the way to the Sea of Hulamir. They're even accompanied by Mrs. P, who was about to be Twilight's dinner before Soren recognized her, and Clud stays true to his word by bringing Eglantine to the bad guys. And we have no idea what happened to their parents. Maybe Arden really did come for Noctis in this reality, and we finally meet Nyra's mate, also known as Metalbeak.
Remember, weakness is for the lower species, never for us. Do you know why, Clud?
Because we are Titans.
You know what? Instead of complaining about Clud again, I think it's a good time to make comparisons between the movie and the books. Now, if you're like me and think that this bastard's turn to evil makes too little sense, well then get this. The movie's version of Clud is a saint compared to his book counterpart. The latter was exposed to the Pure Ones at an early age, and he kept that encounter a secret from his family. He was so far gone that he tried to kill Soren early in the story, and it's all downhill from there. But while Clud was a bad egg in every sense of the word, his arc couldn't fully be explained unless we talk about Nyra. She was an incredibly beautiful barn owl in the book, and Clud had the hots for her the moment they met. Book Nyra in turn loved Clud for his ruthlessness and cruelty, and eventually they became the perfect, loving couple from hell. They also have offspring at some point, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I can see why the movie decided to make some changes, but I don't think it did enough to line up Clud's actions with his motivations. It's especially galling to hear him complain about his parents because we never see them play favorites. We'll get back to Clud bashing later. For now, we see our heroes making their long journey to the sea. They run into some crows who steal Twilight's loot, thus leading to a chase scene since Mrs. P was inside the instrument. Twilight helps Soren give a boost to help him catch up to these crows, and the latter succeeds in recovering the loot before it gets smashed by some rocks. They also find the Sea of Hulamir, but before they can think of going anywhere, they get pestered by an echidna.
Horses would land on my shore.
Look, we mean you no harm.
Yes, 'twas foretold as well.
We've flown a long way.
Also foretold. And we're very tired. Foretold! I know all.
Right. The echidna tells our heroes to keep flying under a certain set of stars to reach the Guardians. He even ascribes them roles like in an RPG.
Warrior.
A poet warrior, please. Thank you.
Fine. Strong and noble. The tracker. Sturdy and faithful. The navigator who doubts. The leader whose gizzard is strong. And finally, of course, the heart.
Well, when you put it like that, you make them sound awesome. And off they go to a glorious journey to the great tree.
What did he say?
We're halfway there! Are you? Oh, this is gonna be a breeze.
We're lost!
Well, crap. Their fatigue bars are also empty, so now they're gonna die out in the cold. Digger is the first to fall, and Soren is unable to save him. But it's fine. He got saved.
Can you fly with me?
There are 5 of us.
Yes, we know.
So with the help of these other owls, Soren and company finally make it to the island of Ga'Hoole, a wondrous place that bears with it the Tree of Ga'Hoole, filled with the Owls of Ga'Hoole. Yeah, exactly. But before they get to be tourists, Soren and Gylfi are brought before a council of guardians. The group is led by the 2 snow owls who rescued them earlier, Borin and Barin, and they ask our heroes about the Pure Ones. The testimony proceeds smoothly enough, but one owl, Alamir, casts doubt on what Soren and Gylfi went through.
Without intending any disrespect, and particularly to my little friends who have been through so much, such a story simply stretches plausibility too far.
You know, earlier we saw another masked owl talking with Metalbeak about taking over the tree on this island. I have a feeling it must be you. Just saying. So to get the Guardians to trust his account, Soren turns back around the argument that his word is insufficient.
Yes, the only proof I have are my words. But words were the only proof I ever had that you were real. Well, still I believed.
And with the help of Ezarib, this really old screech owl who backed Soren and Gylfi throughout the session, the Guardians agree to send out Alamir and a scouting party to find out what the Pure Ones are up to. Now for some downtime. Soren and Gylfi are then accompanied by this short-eared owl named Altolisa, who tells them about the daily routine of the owls here. Those training to be Guardians shuffle through groups, or chaws, that specialize in certain tasks like navigating, blacksmithing, fighting, etc. It sounds interesting enough, and we're served a brisk training montage with some good visual moments. There's a lot of teasing when it comes to the vast world building from the book series, but we also get a lot cut out, like Martin, a Northern Sawut owl who eventually joins Soren's gang, and Primrose, who is reduced to a cameo in this movie. Even Autolisa, a key ally in the books, is relegated to a few inconsequential scenes here. I guess what I'm trying to say is that the story is going by way too fast. There's not enough time to really explore these characters and flesh them out beyond their archetypes. Which brings us back to the one character who loses out on this pacing the most. Clud.
I'm scared.
Don't be. You're with me now. Eglantine, this is our home. They really appreciate us here.
Soren's weak. We're titers.
Pure ones.
Claude, I promise I won't tell anyone what you're doing.
But first, tonight, just sleep.
Yeah, that's how low he's willing to stoop. And seriously, what happened to the parents? Did they just die off screen or something? Are they going the book route, where Clud actually kills them himself? We'll just have to keep waiting. Meanwhile, back over to the good guys, Soren has been reading up about his favorite part of the Guardian history, the Battle of the Ice Claws. But to his surprise, the book depicts a far more hellish version of events compared to the way his father told the story. He'll have time later to sit with this new information, because Ezarib takes him and his friends into a freaking lightning storm for a flying lesson. I think the other Guardians will reprimand the old owl for needlessly endangering his students, but look how cool it looks!
He sees it. He sees it.
Of course, Soren hesitates at the last possible moment and nearly falls into the water, but Ezarib bails him out at the last moment. Meanwhile, Alamir's group finds and investigates Metalbeak's encampment. But surprise, surprise, it was a trap, and these two nobodies fell for it. Called it. We then cut back to Ezarib going over the flying lesson with Soren. But when the student sees the old owl's mark, he puts two and two together. That curmudgeon is Lies of Keel.
What did you expect? Some Tyto Alba with gleaming armor and battle claws? The moon rising behind him?
Oh.
Well, this is what it looks like when you've actually fought in battle. It's not glorious, it's not beautiful, it's not even heroic. It's merely doing what's right, and doing it again and again, even if someday you look like this.
He's not wrong. Helping others is its own reward, not the glory and praise that comes from doing so. And being the hero will always take a toll on you, mentally and physically, but you still have to do it to make the world a better place. To demonstrate these lessons, let's move on to the final third of this movie. Alamir returns to the Great Tree with two moon-blinked owlets, one of them being Eglantine. And after a council meeting, the Guardians get ready for battle. Soren wants to go too, but Ezarib tells him to stay behind. Our hero hasn't completed his training, the argument goes, and he is better off tending to his sister. And as the owls fly into battle, surprised it didn't take that long, Soren tries snapping Eglantine out of her hypnosis by telling her that the Guardians are real. And that does the trick, thank goodness. But what she has to say next doesn't sound good.
I mean, Claude was there with me. He did this to me, Soren. He's one of them.
Well, then Glock's Alamir rescued you.
I wasn't rescued. Claude gave me to the owl who brought me here.
That would mean that Alamir would have to be a traitor.
No, I still can't accept how easily Clud fell to evil in this version. Anyway, Soren realizes the Guardians are going to be in trouble, so he, Gylfi, Twilight, and Digger set off to warn them about Alamir. But it's too late, since the Pure Ones used their magnet field to ground the owls. So to get the Guardians out of this mess, Soren plans to destroy the metal contraption, but he'll need his friends to fight off the bats first.
They have no chance against the Flex. Still, I don't think we can trust you anymore, Alamir.
You promised me I would be king of the tree!
You should know, Alamir! There is only room for one king.
And that's the end of Alamir! By the way, he was voiced by Sam Neill, aka Alan Grant from Jurassic Park. So it wasn't dinosaurs that got him, it was some goddamn bats. Back to Soren, he's flying down to a forest fire to set ablaze a portable lantern. And after a cool scene of him flying through the waves of fire and flames, he dive bombs straight into the magnetic field to drop the lantern onto the trap.
Come on, Soren. That was exemplary. But we're not finished yet, boy.
Well, yeah, the final boss is still waiting in the wings. But first, we gotta have some cool action sequences of the Guardians battling the Pure Ones, using claw gloves and talon swords. Hell yeah! I should know that there is some slow-mo used during these moments, but I think it's put to great effect here. But before we have Metalbeak, we have the long-awaited battle between the brothers. Soren still can't accept that Clud willingly joined the Pure Ones, but what was he expecting? That he'd have a good reason to be evil? No, he's doing it just for himself.
What they did to us? They believe in me like no one else ever has. Metalbeak says the strong will triumph. The broken are put out of their misery. And honor? Honor is just another word for weakness.
Nothing we've seen shows Clud being ignored or unloved by his family. I want to say that the Pure Ones took advantage of his jealousy, but that doesn't seem likely at this point. The two brothers fight until they almost fall into the fire. Clud tries to ask Soren to help him up, even playing the brother card to guilt him into it, but it's a trick for our bad egg to take one last swipe at our hero. But then...
God, no!
Farewell, you petty-ass brother. On the side, Ezarib has a grudge match against Metalbeak, the same guy he defeated in the Battle of the Ice Claws. He gets the upper hand at first, but Naira joins in to turn the tables. Soren also charges into that battle too, and comes to blows with Metalbeak. He is predictably beaten up for his troubles, but the big bad gets cocky and charges after our hero, who manages to get his claws on a burning stick. Honestly, that felt a bit anticlimactic, given Metalbeak's lack of screen time. But with the Lord High Title vanquished, Naira and the remaining Pure Ones retreat.
Soren, you did what was right. And you did it well.
And so the Guardians save the moon-blinked owlets by treating their conditions back in Ga'Hoole. Oh hey, Mom and Dad are alive in this version. Not gonna question what they were doing all this time because the movie's about to end. We then cut over to Soren narrating the movie's plot, which included his band's promotion into fully fledged guardians.
Of owls, whose fate and a storm had blown into the tree, now stood before its king and queen as young guardians.
Please, don't stop.
I don't want to give anyone daymares.
Oh, come on. There must be more. There must be.
I'm not totally sold with the way Soren tells the story. Remember what Ezerib had to say?
It's not glorious, it's not beautiful, it's not even heroic. It's merely doing what's right.
Let me remind you that Soren not only had to fight his brother, but he had to watch said brother be everything he stands against. He also had to kill someone to save the day, and while he's totally justified in doing so, this should not be an experience that's easy to brush off or move on from. Now, in Soren's defense, he is telling the story to some owlets, so he doesn't want to pour on the daymare fuel, but I still think his account should have a little more sobering and introspective. That's all I'm saying. And speaking of brother,
Well, Clud was never found.
I think this movie desperately needs a sequel, if only to understand why Clud is an asshole. Anyway, this movie is a mixed bag. The source material is an amazing foundation to tell an epic fantasy story with owls, but the execution of these ideas is rather lacking. On one hand, Animal Logic Studio did a fantastic job of bringing Catherine Lasky's world to life. The look of the film is absolutely gorgeous, from character designs to scenery to animation. But on the other hand, we didn't have much time for characterization, so most of our characters don't really change over the course of the story. Soren gets a little development from seeing the reality of his childhood idol, I guess. Maybe the same could be said of Gylfi, since she's around Soren the longest and had to learn things from him too. But Clud has to be one of the most poorly written evil brother characters ever. It's just hard to understand or feel sorry for him when we are not given any good reasons for him to act the way he did. If someone wants to revisit the Guardians of Ga'Hoole, then an animated TV series is the way to go. That means more time to establish settings, characters, and what those characters want and why. But don't hold your breath. Despite almost making back twice its original budget, and despite Catherine Lasky's own endorsement, the movie received mixed reviews upon release, and we haven't heard any news about a possible sequel since. A shame, but hey, the books exist for a reason. So watch this if you're curious, but also try and get copies of the source material if possible. Next time, though, we'll be switching from owls to fish, and the fish are more interesting. See ya then.
Higher places, carry me away from here. Travel light, let the sun eclipse you, 'cause your flight is about to leave.